decision was unanimously supported. That is the judgment of the Scottish FA's KMI panel. It wasn't for the incident at the weekend at Pittodrie, but it was looking back at Takis Fisas' red card at home to Celtic in 2006. Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I'm delighted to be joined by Scott McIntosh as we look ahead to Heart of Midlothian's trip to Fir Park to face the informed Motherwell side. How's it going, Scott?
Yeah, very well. Looking forward to tomorrow. Sell out away end. I think Motherwell are expecting good numbers at their end as well. So you're looking at a gate possibly over 10,000 and should be a good match, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited for this one. Really excited. Watched them against Hibs. I actually thought Hibs were probably as bad as Motherwell were good.
Lessons from how Hibs set up against us.
Yes.
I don't think we'll go in making the same mistakes. So that's possibly worked out in our favour.
Yeah, absolutely. Which we'll get to. Chris Bennett says late again. We were late. I was getting feedback from Scott's mic, so I was hearing myself twice, and I didn't want to put everyone else through that. Once is enough. So, like I said, we are going to look ahead to the Motherwell game and just look at the different elements of it. We might touch on the KMI panel and their outcome of the Landry Kabore incident at Pittodrie. Thank you everyone for joining us, whether you're on time or late, like we are always. Please get involved in the comment section or try to involve as many comments as possible where relevant. Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Right, Motherwell. Straight off the bat, Scott, how big a game is this for Hearts?
Yeah, I'd say the next two games are really big. I think, Motherwell away, Kilmarnock at home. That can then hopefully build up a bit of momentum again for the team, sort of leading us into that runny fixtures where we've got Celtic away, Falkirk, Rangers at home. I think we really need a bit of momentum going into those games. I think we're at a stage just now, it's a bit of a fork in the road moment where the past four results can be probably manipulated either way, depending on your agenda. I think some people would like to lead to looking at it as 1 defeat and 4, which is still decent form. Some of the naysayers all would look at it as 1 win and 4. So I think next couple of games are vital for us to sort of just maintain that momentum that we've built for the start of the season and have other teams worrying about us again.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, obviously with Celtic around the corner, I think that was Dennis McInnes's one of his messages when we went to the press conference on Wednesday was they're looking to get 6 points from 6 going into the game at Celtic Park. Do that, and obviously you're still in a good position. Even if defeat comes at Celtic Park, you're still top of the league, albeit Celtic will have a game in hand. But the other reminder was that Hearts are still top of the league. We kind of said that in a meeting with the players on Wednesday. At times it didn't feel like it in the aftermath of the Aberdeen game, and some of the reaction got a lot of pictures sent to me of maroon Hearts crest on a maroon balloon with which is about to burst. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's like just the first defeat of 13 games.
It's a bubble that's been inflated by people outside of the club, though. I think this is something I touched upon with Mark earlier in the week when we were doing the pod. I was trying to talk about the fact that it's very much a journalist's job to build teams up so that they can then tear them down straight away. The fans will just go with the flow. I think most fans are still quite positive just now. I think most of us accept that with the chances we had last week, we really should have been winning that game, even although it wasn't a great performance. And I think against Dundee United, we were maybe just guilty, maybe just playing a bit anxiously. And I think the fans were part of that as well. I think it was a bit of an anxious atmosphere as well once Dundee United came back into the game. So I think we're still in a good, healthy position. And I think the teams round about us still have the same problems that they had 2 weeks ago. I don't think that much has changed over there as well. So, yeah, I think there's still a lot to be positive about. And don't get me wrong, tomorrow's going to be difficult. How difficult it's going to be is dependent on how we approach the game, but hopefully we'll make some changes and some tweaks to what we saw last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And just touching on that, watching some of the games this week, like Hibs were miles off it. Aberdeen, whereas probably as bad as we were against Petro Club last season, and Rangers. I bet they just can't wait to get to the end of the season. And even Celtic, even though they played really well in Rotterdam, you still see that there's a real fragility about them. So yeah, it's Hearts are still in a very, very good position and a enviable position for many. Now, Motherwell, I don't know if he's watched the game on Tuesday, Scott.
Guy.
Yeah, it's saying
paid for the stream.
Okay.
Even paid
I mean,
for the stream because I enjoy watching Motherwell, so
yeah,
I even sort of paid for the stream. They're an interesting side to watch just now, and I was keen to see how Hibs were going to approach the game. I sort of knew what Motherwell would do. Wasn't expecting as many changes to the personnel as what you saw, but yeah, I definitely kind of wanted to see how Hibs were going to approach it because I thought they would maybe play the game in a manner in which we would maybe try and do tomorrow. So that was interesting.
Yeah, so Ramsey's 470 says Motherwell are far better side than Aberdeen. Tough game tomorrow. I think we just need to look back to the game earlier in the season where I was going to say raced into a 3-0. I think I've written raced into a 3-0 lead, but it was over the course of 55 minutes or so. So I'm not sure they can do racing in there. So, but they did. They took a 3-0 lead at Tynecastle. They played really, really well. At the same time, you came away from the game thinking, oh, Hearts could have actually won that. Motherwell have kicked on since then. They've had the disappointment of St Mirren game in the cup, but they've picked up, I think, 13 points from the last 15, and they are now sitting in fourth place. And they are a really interesting team, and I found them even more interesting on Tuesday because for the first time in the league, they played with a back three rather than a back four, and do wonder if that was in a way to counter like Hibs and the fact that they play with two up top and they've got the aerial threat of Bowie and the pace and behind of Martin Boyle, but also Askew talked about they were just happy to let Grant Hanley have the ball and basically encourage Hibs up the pitch, and then you've seen how they exploited them with the pace in behind. I have my doubts that they'll play with a back three against us. I think they might revert to their usual.
I don't know. It's hard to say. They found quite a level of joy against Hibs, which would be hard for a manager to maybe want to make too many changes again. So it'll be interesting to see that. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot to admire and respect about Motherwell. But I'm hoping at our end that we are not focusing too much on what they potentially do. And I think it's about finding a system that's going to benefit the majority of our players while still be able to negate what they can offer and offer a threat at our end.
So I was I forgot to load the images, but I was looking at kind of the stats today, and encouragingly for Hearts are by far the best team in the Scottish Premiership for creating chances away from home and creating good chances away from home. Flip side, Motherwell are, you know what they want? They're a possession-based side. They want to control the game. They're very patient. They want to kind of entice you out and then exploit you and exploit the space down the sides of the defence and behind. Only Celtic, I think, average more passes per 90 minutes than Motherwell do. They had a ridiculous number of passes against Hibs, albeit Hibs were down to 10 men. But interestingly, they don't have. They're very low for touches in opposition box and very low for kind of deep completions, which basically just passes into the final third essentially. Whereas Hearts are in the top three for both. So do you expect Hearts to almost be content with Motherwell having the ball or having a greater share of possession and then just looking to be direct and quick when we win it back?
Yeah, I think we tried to do that, albeit we didn't do it well or execute the plan well for that opening 60 minutes at Tynecastle. I think we were quite happy for Motherwell to have the ball and then trigger the press a bit further back, which isn't what we've always done this season. Sometimes we've went man for man. We've tried to press from the front and be quite aggressive. I don't think there's any harm in letting Motherwell have that ball in their half. If they want it, I think the trick is to make sure that we're not getting hit in those wide areas. I think what they've done really well against Hibs was force Hibs into pretty much a back five scenario.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm pretty confident we'll do this, but I'd really like to see us just revert back to the 4. And that's not a knock on the 3 centre halves, but it's a knock on the lack of options we have in the wing back roles.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be far too easy for individuals like Borshev, Milne, McAtee to go back into a back 5 once they're pressed on. So I do think we probably need to go back into that 4. And I think it's vital that we try and keep a level of width up top as well. And we just try and bypass the midfield tomorrow.
Yeah.
That would be my tip. Having Halkett back in the team will help, because I think Halkett's really good at switching the ball from right to left. And I think if he can do that and get that sort of direct style in our game, I think we'll have a good chance tomorrow. I think where Hibs went wrong was that Hibs tried to play from the back and they wanted to include Barlaser in that. And the problem with Barlaser was Elijah was just dropping off the other 2 Motherwell forwards and just sitting on them when they didn't have the ball, which meant that Hanley could only put the ball out into the wide positions, and Sparrow and Katrumbis were doing really well at getting up and pressing on them as soon as they were at the halfway line. So I think what we need to do tomorrow is go with the 4, because I think that suits us as well. That's not just about negating what Motherwell can offer. I think the back 4 suits Hearts just now in terms of the personnel that we have. And Harry Milne is far better running from a deeper position and having that game in front of him and overlapping a wide player than playing as a wing back. I think he proved that again last week. And if it's Borshev coming in, I think there's a feeling that he might be starting tomorrow, I think. Then he'll hopefully be able to offer us a bit of an outlet down the right as well. So back 4, I think, is the best way of us approaching this game in terms of just defending properly, but also giving us a direct outlet in terms of, having width up there. Whether I'd prefer to see 4-3-3 tomorrow, but it wouldn't surprise me to see a return to the 4-2-4.
So, I've got a few questions regarding the lineup, presuming it is a back 4 and reverts to a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-4, which we'll get to. Just touching on a earlier point, I think it's easier for Hearts to set off the game a wee bit more at Fir Park than it is when playing against Motherwell at Tynecastle, just with the expectation and what you're hoping for from a home side. But in terms of the kind of rope for the predicted 11 or the preview, was kind of broke it down into 3 key questions, but you feel free to add as we go. The first was, how important is Stuart Finlay being available considering the pace and movement that Motherwell have in the final third?
I think it's important to a point, but I wouldn't be unhappy to see McCart start the game. I do like McCart. I think you have a bigger problem the other side when it's Kent replacing Halkett. And I think you could see that last week. I think Kent's far too prone to drop deep in games, and he really struggles against pacier players. I think if you've got Milne slotting in at left back alongside McCart as well, then you've got Milne there as sort of a good degree cover, I think it's fair to say, after finding out that stat about him sort of during the week. So yeah, wouldn't bother me to see McCart in the team. Again, from a physical standpoint, it would be pretty much horses for courses there. But yeah, I know you drop a yardie pace, but I don't think it's a game where our centre halves are going to be pressing the game too high up the park anyway. I don't see it being that match. So in that regard, wouldn't worry me too much if Finlay wasn't there.
The second question I put in was who partners, presuming it's a 4-4-2 or 4-2-4, who partners Lauren Shankland in attack?
So this is the thing. I think if you go with the 4-2-4, I would still like Milne to be the left back. I wouldn't want Milne going up there into the wide right, because I think if Borshev comes into the team, I think Borshev can give you that natural width anyway as a proper fullback compared to McAtee. So what I would like to see us try and do is play Kizadidis on the right and play Brago on the left, and then have Kabore and Shanklin up top. Because I think one of the things you can do to Motherwell, if you can win the ball quickly enough and be quick in the transition, is you can hurt them in behind the defender. And I think Kabore would actually be a good option for there. I thought Kabore made some great runs last
Yeah.
week, but what he was missing was Lauren Shankland.
Yeah.
He just missed that player that could see that pass. He was making those runs all the time. And I think, strange to say it, because he did get a double against Dundee, that's the most I've been impressed by Kabore over the piece in a full game. Because I think just a central position is where he's at his best. Possibly away from home as well, where there's a bit more space in behind the back line. I think he could be a really good outlet in a fixture like tomorrow. So that's what I'd like to see in a 4-2-4. I'd stick Milne at left back because Milne gives you so much more for that position. And I would play Kazididis on the right and Braga on the left.
That somewhat answers a bonus question I was going to ask regarding Milne. But yeah, Kabore, I agree. I agree. I'm sure I put it in the predicted 11 article that I felt that was his most encouraging performance. And while there were some mixed reports about Kabore from fans of other teams who mates with and they were watching the game, I just really liked what I seen of him. I thought his hold-up play was a lot more crisp than it's probably been when he has played, where he's bringing it in and being sharp with it, giving it, and then making runs. And yeah, he's a real threat in behind. And I just think him and Shankland on paper have a really. I know Braga's been absolutely brilliant, but him and Shankland have a really nice balance where he can run in behind, he can engage defenders, and he's pretty good in the air as well. And then that just frees up Shankland to just do what he wants. And it's just a natural one where we've seen it with Ginelli, for example, that partnership and how effective Shankland can be within that. Now, you've got your. I'll come to the right back question let's get onto the right back question, then I'll go into midfield. So the third question I had down was, does Borkovic start?
Yeah, I think this is a decent fixture for him to start in. I think primarily because Motherwell are not the Motherwell of old. It's not going to be an up and at 'em sort of Motherwell performance that you're going to expect. I think Borkovic can therefore handle that sort of physical aspect of the game. I think because they try and play the game in a manner in which he's probably used to dealing with back in Norway, I think would help him as well.
Yep.
If you go back to that first game that he played against Aberdeen at Tynecastle, he done pretty well in the first half. In fact, for the first sort of 50 minutes or so. His only issue was when Aberdeen saw a potential weakness with the physical aspect of his game, and what they did was they brought in Pulvara, and they sort of started to sort of put Pulvara out wide, and I felt like that was a bit of an issue that he found in that game. So as much as I don't think he's the perfect right back for us moving forward, I think tomorrow's a good opportunity to get him in the team, and most importantly, get McAtee in there alongside Devlin. I feel like Magnussen's done reasonably well the last couple of games, but more so from a standpoint of supporting his forward players. I still feel like we've been missing something in terms of retaining the ball and winning the ball back. We've been Ngame out there. So I'd quite like to see McAtee in there, who still would be a good player for driving us forward. And again, if you're looking to go long and direct, you've got that long diagonal where you could push him further up on the right and even bring Kizididis in somewhat. So yeah, that's what I'd be looking to do tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get to see something similar to that.
My Borkovic, I think you make a really good point about Borkovic. In my head was just the fact that Hearts will probably have less possession against Motherwell, and there'd be more defending to do, and just with the pace element of the Motherwell attack, and I just wonder if McInnes might think, because in my head Borkovic is the type of start, believe he's going to get game time over the next month, or in the coming weeks, I should say, and I just wondered if maybe Kilmarnock was the better game for him to start because Hearts are going to have a lot more possession. But then again, who's to say that he can't start both games? And then you did answer Brian O'Rourke's question. Do you reckon McEntee and Devlin might work well together? Givaldo says Spittle back in the midfield for Magnussen. David Watson says McEntee in midfield with Cammy. What else have we got before we move on? Givaldo said, this is one I disagreed with. I think the defensive side is okay. I agree with that. But the issue is we can't score goals and no one from midfield offers any threat. Disagree. I think we're the highest scorers in the league, and Sunday was the first time we've not scored a goal in in a game this season.
Yeah, and I think, like I was just touching on there, I think Magnuson showed an ability to get in there and offer a threat. He should have scored. Don't get me wrong, he should have scored. But I think he's proven that over time, I think if he played a full season for someone in our league, he's a midfielder that would easily get 5 to 7 goals, I think, playing for that position. So you've also got the wide options. One of the reasons why we've maybe not scored so much from midfield, which I think Givaldo needs to remember, is we've been playing with a 4-2-4 predominantly over the best spell. So if you view it that way, Kizaridis and Shanklin and Braga have been our main attacking outlets. We've not really needed things to come from midfield, and that's been fine because they've been there to assist the back four, so to speak. So I don't think that's an issue so far. Naturally, I think McAtee could offer something for midfield. I think he's somebody who could maybe make late runs into the box and maybe assist in that respect. But it's not something I've been worried about up to this point. I do agree, though. I don't know if it was Givaldo or someone else who mentioned about Spittle coming in for Magnuson. I think if we went to a 4-3-3, that is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Spittle play just in front of McAtee and Devlin. And then you've got an option of you'd maybe even drop Kizaridis in that circumstance and play Braga and Kabore just either side of Shanklin and going a bit more narrow up top. But that's again not something I'm totally against. But it would be Spittle I'd like to see in that position, just because I think that's a position that he can play really well. But yeah, just it's another interesting option.
Yeah, this chairman man one says play 3 in the middle to stop Motherwell from playing, and Alex Hinks says put Ocean McEntee back in the midfield. Gamer X says let Motherwell have the ball and hit them down the wide areas with the skill of Kizzy and the pace of Milne. Obviously, the rapid, one of the fastest players in the world. Only changes should be Halkett for Kent and Shanklin for Braga, and put McEntee in midfield with Devlin, says Peter Chalmers. I'm not sure who's playing right back there. Not sure I was fancy either Kent or Halkett at right back. And Cisco Kid says we need to plan, make use of our attacking bench options and give them game time to change the match and make an impact. Hopefully that's not needed. Where get my notes up. Yeah, so we have gone through the question. So if off the top of my head, your starting 11 would be Swallow, Borkovic, Halkett, McCart / Finlay, Milne, Kizaridis, McEntee, Devlin, Braga, Kabore, and Shanklin.
Yeah. I think we go with the 4-2-4, but again, I wouldn't be unhappy to see a 4-3-3 as well. I think as long as we revert to the 4, we're making things more comfortable for our players. I get why we matched up with Aberdeen last week, but I just feel it's asking a lot of our wing backs. We don't have wing backs. That's basically my assessment of the Hearts squad. We don't have any wing backs. Kingsley and Milne can't play wing back. I don't think Borshevink or McAtee certainly can't play wing back. So I think we need to play a 4 to try and just offer us a little bit more balance down the sides just now.
And just before we move on to discuss the Kaborians in Aberdeen, Givaldo asks, what's the thought on Cabangu now? I mean, my view is that we've seen Kabore come in and have an increase in presence, and I just think Kabore does what Kabore offers you, what Cabangu offers you, but I think Kabore offers you so much more and a bit more potential, and I just find it difficult seeing a place shortest, medium, and long term for Cabangu at Hearts.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much fourth choice just now. Would probably be the observation from most fans. I think his signing in the summer was possibly out of obligation rather than a desire from the club. I thought he had a couple of decent cameo performances when we needed him, particularly that away game at Ibrox when he was able to stretch the defence. I know there was a few grumbles about him not getting time against Aberdeen at the weekend, but Aberdeen were sitting in a low block by that stage. I do think James Wilson was the better alternative in terms of sniffing a goal out. The problem was possibly not giving James Wilson enough time to do that. But yeah, I totally understand why Cabangu wasn't the preferred choice to come on in that game. And like you say, I just think Kabore gives that option and possibly has a bit more of an upside now for the club, not just in terms of what he can do on the park, but obviously from a player trading standpoint as well. They probably see a bigger upside from him in terms of moving him on. Kabangu's already now 27, 28. In terms of transfer fees, you maybe just be looking to try and recoup what you've paid for him in the summer. It wouldn't surprise me if he maybe potentially goes in January, whether that be a permanent or a loan deal, I don't know. But yeah, that probably wouldn't surprise me just now, because I'd imagine he'll be feeling frustrated as well. And at this stage of his career, he'll be wanting games. He's already been in this scenario last season at St. Gilloise, which is why he found himself at Tynecastle in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. He's and what he said about Wilson, that's exactly what McIntosh said on Wednesday when we asked him about Wilson. He was like, Aberdeen were defending deep, needed a kind of penalty box striker, and Wilson's probably more of that than Kabangu. And I just think you've got, I think you need different blends of strikers, because Kabangu's, Givaldo says, coming off the bench, that he's ideal player to come on late in games. He is an ideal player to come late in games, but I think when the game's stretched, yeah, and then I just think you've got to have different blends of strikers. So while he's here, I think he'll be a useful in certain games. He'll be a useful kind of bench option, and he is, as far as we are, a very good teammate. I think McIntosh likes working with him and his kind of personality. But I think it's like you said, he is down the pecking order, and he'll be wanting to play football. We'll move on to quickly discuss the Landry Kabore incident, the KMI panel, Scott, and I don't know why I bothered to give it air. Really, it's largely meaningless, but we'll talk about it anyway. It came out today that the KMI panel unanimously, can't say that word, supported the on-field decision not to award Hearts a penalty for Dimitar Mitov's challenge on Landry Kabore late in the game. What did you make? What do you make of their decision?
It just feeds that narrative that's been going around for a while now, that goalkeepers are a protected species. I mean, you talk about a lot of laws within the game that talk about endangering an opponent. I don't know how else to talk about how Mitov approaches that challenge. You're endangering an opponent. The fact that he doesn't get anything on the ball makes it even worse. It's a ludicrous decision, but it's not one that surprises me in terms of how goalkeepers are protected. So again, I'm not saying this is because it's happened against Hearts or it's happened in favour of Aberdeen. We could easily get a favourable decision like that further down the line, because I do think a lot of referees would have given or not given a decision in that instance, is what happened last week. So you've just got to try and move on and deal with it and sort of accept it as best as you can, sort of similar to the handball rules and how that's interpreted differently as well. But for me, it's a penalty. But again, I'm not surprised by the decision today.
Yeah. I mean, that's not much of a surprise, but it just leaves you like baffled at the same time.
I mean, if you look. And let's try and view this like away from viewing it purely just in Hearts' favour. Look at the free kick that we get at Ibrox for Svolov. Look at the lack of minimal interference or impact on him that we get a free kick for, and then play that up against the amount of contact on Kabore, and it's night and day. Yet we don't get a decision, but yet we do get the free kick against Rangers. It's madness, but again, just feeds into that narrative. Goalkeepers just get refereed differently. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I remember looking at it. I hadn't realised at the time on Sunday it was late in the game, so I hadn't been paying as much attention as I do earlier in the game, and so I hadn't been aware of the decision. And then I seen coming down the road, seen Chris Boyd speaking about it, and watched it in the morning. And then so I went to like IFAB laws to see what their direction is, and they said kind of free kick, a direct free kick, so apparently is awarded if a player commits any of the following offences against an opponent in a manner considered by the referee to be careless, reckless, or using excessive force. Charges, jumps at, kicks or attempts to kick, pushes, strikes or attempts to strike, tackles or challenges, etc., etc. So very much falls into that category where it is, and like you said, goalkeepers largely get carte blanche to do that. And this wasn't just a Hearts thing. We've seen it numerous times where a goalkeeper's charged out and just wiped out a player.
Well, Alan McGregor played the part of the Karate Kid for years, didn't he? He used to kick out, and he only ever got pulled up for it. I think that one time against Hibs, where he maybe kicked, what do you say, it was maybe McNulty. Doesn't even make that much contact with him, but he goes to try and kick him. I think that's the only time he ever got pulled up for it. But there was that time at Tynecastle where he came out for a ball and just kicked Callum Elliott in the thigh. Nothing got given.
Yep.
Like, it's mental. Absolutely mental.
Right, so we will leave it there. Before we finish, just want to pay tribute to Tommy Murray, who passed away age 82, the former Hearts player. Played 147 times for Hearts, scoring 22 goals, and will forever be known as the player who sat on the ball v Rangers in 1972. We'll be back over the weekend to review the game against Motherwell. Hopefully it will be a positive review. Be sure to check out heartstandard.co.uk for all the latest ahead of the game and before and after the game. And we do have a Black Friday offer going until Monday, where you can get a year subscription for £12. And in terms of YouTube, please do like and subscribe. Thank you very much for engaging your comments, and I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, which involves a Hearts win.